We're going to take it from the top. We're glad you're here. We got some exciting guests lined up today. Don't go anywhere because we have best-selling author Charla Anderson on the Michael D. Show. We got people, if you've ever wanted to adapt your book to a film, if you've ever wanted to say, hey, I've written a great nonfiction or fiction book, and I see so much. Charla, I don't know if you knew that. I know you knew this about readership was up globally during the pandemic. It continues to grow. Global book consumption is up everywhere. A lot of people thought the internet killed publishing, but publishing and readership is up everywhere. And movie consumption, and people aren't going to theaters, but they're consuming movies on Netflix, on streaming services, on Amazon Prime, on Hulu. So if you ever wanted to get your book adapted for film, come check it out. We've got some great guests. We're going to hear from Charla Anderson. She's the best-selling author of Candy Bar Hugs, and she's making a huge difference in the world. And she's got some exciting announcements coming up and a new book coming out on her birthday called Split Second Transformation. Change your words, change your life. So if you've ever felt stuck and needed some help to transform, she hosts the show where she interviews amazing guests from around the world. So don't go anywhere because here in just a minute, we're going to interview some amazing guests. Changing lives in New York and NASDAQ and beyond. Michael D. Butler, global book publisher. We're ending human trafficking at 1040impact.org. I don't celebrate birthdays. I just do celebrate birthdays. And I don't remember exactly why I quit celebrating birthdays. Maybe it was because on my 16th birthday, my parents happened to be both out of town on business trips. I mean, it was just my 16th birthday. I was getting my driver's license, growing up on the farm in Oklahoma. My brother checked me out of school in third hour and took me to the DMV. Now, I'd studied hard for that test. I wanted to pass it. I wanted my freedom. And that was a Monday. And the reason I know it was a Monday is because the guy that did the test, he only did the test on Monday. And I was so proud. I came out and I had my picture, weighing 136 pounds, sophomore. Right there, I got my ticket to freedom. So he takes me to the Pizza Hut, and we're eating pizza, and we're celebrating. And I get to drive my car back to the school, and I get to drive my car home that day. We had planned it that way. But that night, it was quiet, and it was lonely. And it was empty in the house. There was no birthday song. There was no celebration or birthday gifts. And there was no birthday cake. My brother, who would go on to be valedictorian, would study every night in his room. He was in his room. There was no internet. There was no social media. There was nothing. It was just quiet. Maybe the reason I don't celebrate birthdays is when I turned 40, Dad calls me the day before my birthday and says, son, let's celebrate your birthday tomorrow. And I said, yeah, that'd be great. I've got a lot to celebrate. Let's do it. He said, tomorrow at your favorite restaurant, 12 noon. I said, you bet. I'll see you there. Hang up the phone. The next morning, he shows up at the restaurant at 11:50. Dad was always early. He grew up on the dairy farm, and I was always right on time. So 12 o'clock came. I didn't show up. 12:05 comes. He's a little worried. He's texting and calling. It goes straight to voicemail. 12:15, he's like, what's going on? At 12:25, he calls the hospital. Where's my son? 12:45, he drives home to tell my mom, Michael didn't show up. Where was I? Was I in the hospital? No. I was in jail. Because on the eve of my 40th birthday, I went to the bar alone to drink, got into a bar fight, and spent the night of my 40th birthday in jail. What was it about this self-sabotage that the pain was so great that a root of bitterness was growing in my heart at a subterranean level, affecting everything in my life and everyone that I touched in a negative way? I couldn't figure it out. This year, May 10th, I was all ready to celebrate my birthday. Very excited. Friends were coming over at 2 p.m. We had the whole thing planned out. And I hear a noise coming from my wife's bedroom. And I think, oh, maybe she's wrapping gifts. Maybe she's making a cake. And I go in and check on her. I say, what's going on? And she says, I'm leaving. Oh, where are you going? You going to town to get something? No, I'm leaving. What do you mean you're leaving? Everybody's coming over at 2 o'clock today. And she says, I'm leaving for good. She takes her suitcase, and as she goes to the front door, and she says, and I'm not coming back. And she slams the door. And that was the last I heard from her. I'll never forget when I was 7 years old, I told my dad, I said, Dad, I'm going to live to be 120. And I think in my subconscious mind, I knew I needed that much time to redeem the root of bitterness and create what my therapist called a root of blessing. My therapist said there's two things you need to do to reverse the curse of bitterness and create blessing in your family and to bring it back. And you need to forgive yourself and you need to celebrate. Well, I was good at forgiving myself because I had screwed up a lot and I forgave a lot. And she said, celebrate yourself, come on. And that was my theme song. And I sat there in jail and said, I'm going to run a marathon this year. And Michael, Matthew, Joshua, and Jeremiah, my four sons, they stepped out of the participant or the spectator area in the last 3 miles. They ran with me in 2008 and crossed that finish line with me. And as I told my sons, I said, sons, I am celebrating your birthday, but guess what? Next year, I'm celebrating my birthday on May the 10th, and all of you are invited. Celebrate with me.
All right. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks for being with us today. We are glad you're here. Put in the chat where you're watching from. You're watching the Michael D Show, Faith, Family, Culture, and Business every Tuesday. Exciting guests from around the world. Now, Charla Anderson, you're a people expert and you see the good in others. I've been watching you for a while. You've got the Charla Anderson Show where you interview amazing guests yourself, and you're best-selling author of a great book called Candy Bar Hugs. Tell us kind of your brand. What is it that you do? You flew for the airlines for years. You're a grandma, you're a mom, and you're changing people's lives in the area of health, wealth, and just personal development. So kind of give us a synopsis of who is Charla. And then, by the way, for those of you watching on social media, go ahead and share this out, because in a little bit, we're going to have a guest from Hollywood who's helped adapt three books to movies, to film, and with the likes of Cuba Gooding Jr., Christopher Reeves, Robin Williams, Tom Cruise. If those names ring a bell, if you know those names, you're going to want to stick around. So Charla, you're doing some amazing things. Who is Charla Anderson?
Joy is my lifestyle. It's also what my name means in Greek. Unconditional love is my message. Mindset is my method. I was a flight attendant for 34 years. I retired a long time ago, 15 years ago, but I was an award-winning flight attendant for Delta Airlines for 34 years and carried the Olympic torch for Delta for the Salt Lake City Olympics. And that was a huge honor, peer nominated, and that's why I can say award winning on that. I think in high school, I'm like, I'm just naturally high. I don't need all the drugs. And nobody ever offered them to me. I found out later in maybe my 10-year anniversary or reunion, some of them were doing drugs, never offered them to me because I'm like, I'm naturally high, And so I've been optimistic. And what I call myself now is outrageously optimistic. I believe that things are getting better, not worse. I think that the only moment we really have is right this moment. And whatever has happened last second, last minute, last generation, I have no control over. I can only have control over this second. And if I don't like what I'm doing or where I am, I have a choice next second to do something different or take a different direction. So where I am is all I have. I might as well love it. Does that answer?
I love that. Now, you're best-selling author of Candy Bar Hugs, really encouraging people, showing people their true worth and value. Tell us about Split Second Transformation that's coming out, because, I've had you in our mastermind. I've had you speaking to our authors, and there's some amazing feedback we're getting from this subtitle, Change Your Words, Change Your Life. Is it really that simple? Can people really change their life by changing their words?
Absolutely. I've done it. I know. I can offer a test, a little short, one of the most easiest examples, or one of the easiest examples I have for that in my book is like, you're so tired. People are always going, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. But I'm just guarantee you saying that is not going to make you less tired.
Yeah.
So it's a possibility that you shift that one word. If you're not going to bed, if you can go, there's two different, if you're going to go to bed and you're tired and that's the reason, go for it. If you can't do that and that's not what you're doing, what if you shifted that one word to I'm refreshed, I'm energized, I'm pumped, or I'm getting better. Something that is more, positive, I guess is the right word. Does your body change? I think it kind of does, but it doesn't really matter because your mindset changes. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. Instead of I'm refreshed, I'm energized, I'm pumped. And it just literally seems to flow more energy into your body. So it's a very simple little exercise to change one word that might make a difference for you. And this is 31 chapters, 31 daily practices in the book. And so it's going to be, I feel like it'll be a dog-eared type of book. I need to get, I need some references and encouragement and remembrance on how to say certain things or bring up certain things. And some of it's relationships, some of it's just how to communicate sometimes in a way that you have a stance instead of not knowing what you want to say. You get your stance.
Because I've seen you bring the energy level of rooms up, and you had me on your podcast last week and for an hour and 20 minutes. I mean, it was amazing because I thought, wow, that's a long time, but it went by so fast because we had so much fun. Now you've got an amazing event coming up, and people are always amazed and surprised when you tell them which birthday is coming up, but you've also tied your book launch into your birthday. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I decided to do 70 days till 70, and now we're, I think, 17 days till 70. And so I've been putting out a little meme sayings. I love sayings, and put a meme nearly every day on Facebook. And decided I needed to have a solid date to get this book launched. And so I chose November 30th, my 70th birthday, to launch this book. And we're actually having an event on December 2nd at the TNP Tavern in Fort Worth, Texas, the train station down there, that beautiful old building, the historic building, from 4 to 7, I believe, a book launch, book signing, birthday party, all in one. There's going to be some good surprises. I think you'll, have fun there. And we'll have to, do you have the link? I didn't have it pulled up here, but we can put the link and watch my Facebook.
Definitely put it in the chat. Is it on your charlaaanderson.com where people can find it there?
It's not there yet. This is all kind of coming to fruition. I wanted to get,
well, they can at least sign up for updates, right? They can go there and plug in their email so you don't miss it, guys. It's going to be epic, and you're doing great things because you're one of these people that every time you get on stage or get on a webinar, you're talking about the next 2 or 3 or 4 things that you're doing. And so what's another takeaway as we go to learn how to turn our book and adapt our book into a movie? What's one of your takeaways on how you've lived your life so optimistically like this? Because when you retired, it was like that's when you started traveling the world. It's not like you weren't ready to just go sit in a rocking chair and quilt the Afghans. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's what the other generation did. You're out there living life. So what's a secret takeaway here?
I ain't stopping. So I feel like I loved my job. Those people on those planes were my mission field. I loved being there. And I think that, I lifted the energy of the planes. And so now I have my purpose. I kind of feel like I've come to a line of my life that says, who I am is bold faith, no fear. Who I am is outrageously optimistic. And who I am is radiating my light and love so I can raise a vibration of the world. And that's my mission. Yeah, I've got 3. It doesn't mean my circumstances are easy. Not at all. I mean, I've got my little 2-year-old daughter. She'll be 2 years old. Two the day before my birthday, and she's here. And there's there's a lot of chaos in my world, but I don't have to let it be who I am. I'm just like, find my little space, and I get to be the person that I would like to receive. I'm telling you, I'm a collector and connector of fascinating people, which is my tagline, and everyone is fascinating. I can't go into Aldi's and not make a new friend. I mean, it's just...
Carla, have you ever thought about adapting one or all of your books into a movie, into a film?
Well, I hadn't really thought much about it. That book, the Candy Bar Hugs, is so tiny. If you're a guy, just put it in the bathroom. It's a 25-minute read.
That's what we're going to talk about today, because Steven Simon is with us today, and that's what he does. He adapts books into films. And so, Steve, it's great to have you back. Charla, I want you to stick around because amazing information here. Steven, you've been doing this for quite a while, adapting books to films. And, as we look at your website, we see Somewhere in Time, Christopher Reeve, Jane Seymour, which was a book, Robin Williams and Cuba Gooding Jr., What Dreams May Come, adapted from a book by you into film. And then from a Sports Illustrated article, Tom Cruise, one of my favorites, All the Right Moves. I mean, this was one of the movies that really put him on the map. Steven, we learned as a publisher during the pandemic that readership was up. It exploded. It continues to grow. Knowledge in books is doubling every month in many industries globally. And then also the streaming. You and Sean were giving me some of the numbers the other day, your business partner, on just the hours of streaming and the amount of money that people like Netflix are spending looking for stories to adapt to movies. Steven, why don't you introduce yourself here a little bit to our audience, and tell us a little bit about why authors need to be thinking about adapting their book to either a screenplay and or a film. And welcome to the Michael D. Show.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that very much. I want to say something really quick to Charla. George Burns, right before he reached his 100th birthday, was asked, "What's the secret of that, George?" And he said 4 words, which he always said: love what you do. So I heard that, and good luck with all of your work. Michael, before I answer that question, we have something else we need to talk about.
Okay.
You can't put me into this room and see you do that talk about your 40th birthday and not have me say something. Okay. So now here's what I'm going to say to you. Many years ago, I wrote a book about my adventures, actually misadventures in Hollywood. And a couple of my friends, after they read the book, said, "Oh, we're so glad you wrote the book because you screwed up so much more than I did. Reading your book made me feel better about myself." So, Michael, you win the prize for worst 40th birthday in the history of the planet. Sorry.
I love it. And I've been trying to make up for it ever since. And I think I heard your sound effect cue there. You hit the laugh button, right? Or I think that may have been a real laugh.
No, it was a real laugh. It was a real laugh. I've been in Hollywood too long. My laugh sounds like a laugh button. That's not a good thing. Anyway, so to answer your question, adaptations are a fascinating thing. And as you said, I've taken on 3, and all 3 got made into films, Somewhere in Time and What Dreams May Come from books, and All the Right Moves from a magazine article. There's a whole lot of things that authors need to know when they're going to adapt their books. And that is, it's completely different as a delivery system than writing a book. Totally different. And one of the things that we do with the clients that we help is we send you a long document in which the differences between writing a book and writing a screenplay, which I'm not going to get into now. But one of the most important things is that you need to realize if you have a, 50, 60, 70,000 word book, something like that, the average screenplay in Final Draft, which is the app that you have to use to write a screenplay, because that's what everyone does, the average length of a drama is about 22,000 words. So anytime you go into an adaptation, you have to know up front that a lot of the book is not going to make it on the screen. And some of the things in the book are going to have to be adapted. That's what adapt means. It means change. I find them incredibly exciting because if you have a book that has a terrific hook, if it's about something that's really interesting, if the character relationships are interesting or whatever it might be, the subject matter, there's really no reason why you couldn't adapt that into a book, but you have to be flexible. And one of the things that you brought up, talk about flexibility, the financial model of Hollywood has not worked in 2 decades. It is a completely, the theatrical model is just a mess and has been for a very long time because the success of a film on DVD or on streaming is dependent on the box office for Hollywood. So if you're not doing good box office, it doesn't transfer over. So what's happening a lot during the pandemic? People realize that places like Netflix and Amazon Prime and Paramount Plus and Disney Plus and Hulu had terrific movies and television shows that you could watch and not have to suffer through those endless commercials. So people said, hey, I don't need to go to a theater anymore. Now, if you're going to go see a Marvel comic movie or something like that, you need it for the theaters. But the studios did a survey, which they are not talking about 2 or 3 months ago, about people returning to theaters. And they had a huge poll done. And the poll basically said that if you were a frequent moviegoer before, or if just an occasional one, only 50% of those people plan to ever go back into a movie theater for all kinds of reasons, expense, the rudeness of people around you, you know, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very expensive proposition for people. So the streaming services, and you add HBO and Showtime and into that mix, are desperate for material. Now, the time we're talking about right now, you can double, triple, and quadruple that because the movie business has just in the last week settled the Screen Actors Guild strike. Right after they settled the Writers Guild strike, nothing has happened in the industry for 6 months. Nothing. Because if you were in the Writers Guild or in SAG, you could not work. You were not permitted to work, which means those of people who like, you know, the fall television series and all those premieres, that's going to be in February or March now. It's not now. So they're desperate for material. And when you have a book, you have a story that you can actually pitch. But if you create your own screenplay, you don't have to worry about somebody taking it over. One last thing. A lot of people have said to me in the past, well, why don't I just get a producer to option my material and let him go do it? And the answer to that question is this. If a producer is going to option your material, they are going to pay you something for that option. And once they pay you something for that option, there's going to be a written contract. And in that written contract, they are going to have the right to do whatever the heck they want, including replace you whenever they want. That's why it is so much better for people to go to a producer or to a lawyer or to a studio executive with a screenplay that they have adapted from their own book. On top of that, you're the one that knows the story best. You're the one that knows the most important things about it. So anyway, that's kind of a thumbnail of where we are with everything.
Well, I'm really excited, and we're going to have a webinar on Thursday, and it's almost full, but you can RSVP now. Your business partner, Sean Kuhn, who's been a friend of mine for years since the New York Book Show days.
Yeah, you guys have the same barber.
Yeah, we have a lot of the same things, actually. I would like to say, but he has a real passion for faith and for stories to stage and to film and television, like you and like I. And so, I mean, you've been very successful somewhere in time. There's a movie everyone grew up with, What Dreams May Come, All the Right Moves. So what would you say is one of the big takeaways people are going to get from the webinar if they're able to RSVP for it? Because it might be full by the time they see this. We're doing it Thursday, so jump in, and you and Sean Kuhn are going to be sharing exactly what is the takeaway for Thursday.
So we'll take authors and people who have original ideas too, by the way, because we work with people like that as well. We'll give you the framework like we talked about. Okay, here are the big differences between writing a book and writing a screenplay. I'll give you a little taste of that. In a book, an author can talk about a character's feelings till the cows come home, as they say, right? Mm-hmm. George was afraid. He was afraid this was going to happen. He thought this was going to happen. He wanted this to happen. You have no direct connection with the viewer in a screenplay. So everything either has to be something that the viewer can hear or see, or that is not a part of a screenplay. That's a big adjustment for a lot of writers, a big one. We'll also take you through what it means to adapt a screenplay and actually how we do that, starting with an outline. And, you know, some authors say, well, wait a minute, I already have the book. What do I need an outline for? Well, you may have a 60,000 word book, but you're going to have to adapt it into a 22,000 word screenplay. So you're going to have to do that great line in Bob Seger's line in that great song, Against the Wind, what to leave in, what to leave out. That is a very, very, very big part of adapting a screenplay. And then reading a number of screenplays. And we have sources that we can send you to online where you can download as many screenplays as you want and read them. It's a very different kind of form. And book writing is a lot more free form. Mm-hmm. Screenwriting is a lot more determined by what you have to do, things you can and things you can't. And then what we do with clients is that we will work all the way through that outline with you, and we will work all the way through your screenplay with you so that at the end of the process, you actually have a first draft screenplay.
Well, we're going to give time for Q&A here. I think maybe Charla have a question while we're queuing up some questions and we're getting some comments on the socials. Go ahead and go to book2film.org or sorry, book2movie.org. That's the number 2, book2movie.org. If you've been remotely thinking about, or somebody said, boy, your book could make a good movie, or you just want to learn more, it's this Thursday. It's almost full. Now, Charla, did you have your hand up for a question for Stephen?
It's yes, I guess, because
go ahead.
My third book is, if I can do it, my third book is called Outrageously Courageous, Bold Faith, No Fear, Step Towards the Gun, which of course can be all kinds of things. But I had a gun at my head and I stepped towards the gun and said, you need love. And they ran. And, the reason I was able to do that is because every word matters. What, who I say I am is bold faith, no fear. And then when I got tested with that, I was able to have no fear and step towards them and say, you need love. And they ran. So I think of the 3 books, that one probably would be, have a little bit more of a flavor. I expect that one to actually be published in the spring next year.
Well, I look forward to reading it sometime. And if you decide you want to do that, hopefully you can either be on this call on Thursday. And also on the call, we'll talk about how people can get in touch with Sean and I to set up an appointment to talk about this, because there's a lot that goes into this, and it's time consuming to write a screenplay. And there are a lot of different elements. So we ask people to come online, fill in a form, and then we talk to people about it beforehand. And there's only a limited number of people that we can work with at one time. And particularly if you're adapting a book, because, if you're adapting several books at the same time, you're going to confuse, oh, didn't this happen? No, that happened in that other book. Or didn't that happen in that other book? So anyway, we'll be on the call on Thursday, and hopefully people will join us.
All right. Now for a word from our sponsors, go ahead and fill out book2movie.org before it's too late. Thanks for being with us, Stephen.
You are more than welcome.
To be a part of this heartfelt and riveting book, Powerful Female Immigrants. A filmmaker, documentary alchemist, speaker, and author. I would like to share with you what inspired me to be a part of this heartfelt and riveting book, Powerful Female Immigrants. First of all, it was an honor to be selected to be an author of the book. I believe in a society where men and women are equal contributors. For centuries, women had to reclaim their voice through arduous adversity. Now it's time for their wisdom and their expertise to be a part of a better world. As well, the cause and proceeds of this book go to children who have been trafficked. I am 1000% behind it. I think we all have a responsibility to protect all kids, whether they are our own or not. To support them and be involved in their well-being and future. They are the next generation of our planet.
Right, that powerful word there from filmmaker Paulina Amador, part of the volume 3 of the Powerful Female Immigrants. And like she said, 100% of the proceeds goes to our girls at our nonprofit that we help found and are on the board of and taking our board members to as 1040impact.org and our 4 safe houses in Asia. And I need to update that number on our latest rescue. It put us to 394 girls on a daily basis that we care for, and 25 full-time staff that are giving them medical care, education, training them, helping them for a better life. They've been orphaned, many of them, most of them trafficked. And so they're in recovery, and we have recovery programs for them. 54 of the girls we rescued after the U.S. pulled out of Afghanistan 2 years ago. Their parents were so desperate, they sold them to traffickers. 100% of the proceeds goes to 1040 Impact when you go to powerfulfemaleimmigrants.org and purchase one or all 3 of the books. This is a great time right here at the Christmas time, right here at the holidays, right here at this season of the year. Stocking stuffers, buy them for your team. Very inspirational books. And in fact, you can, if you know an immigrant woman or you are an immigrant woman and you've got an amazing story, we're doing volume 4. You can see if you qualify at powerfulfemaleimmigrants.org. You can buy the books there. You can link to 1040 Impact. You can make a donation. So these are some of the amazing things that we're doing. I am all about the power of story. I am all about getting your story out to the world. And, you know, the book is the gateway. You know, we've published 791 titles in the last 7 years. And, you know, if you're into real estate, you understand what the concept of an anchor tenant is. And the anchor tenant attracts other businesses, other verticals. And as an author, you've got to have a reason about why are you writing the book? Why are you writing this book? And the number one reason that people write books is to get on more stages. You want to write your book to get on more stages. You want to write your book to create more opportunities, get more authors, get more speaking offers, get more media gigs, get more media interviews. You're 68% more likely to get booked on a media podcast, TV show, or a speaking gig if you've got a book. And against the other speakers and experts, business owners that don't have a book. So the very first book I wrote myself was The Single Dad Survival Guide. I was going to publish this book first, book idea to bestseller, but I realized there were a lot of dads going through divorces and there weren't a lot of resources for single dads. And I had gone through a divorce about 15 years prior to writing that book. And there were a lot of resources for women, and women were more inclined to invest in themselves, their personal development, and seek out resources. So I said, what if we created a book called The Single Dad Survival Guide and made it as a gift book that women could buy and give to the men in their life? And so that did really well, became a bestseller. I still do a lot of podcast interviews around Father's Day, so it's a great gift idea. And so when you do one book, you're going to want to do more books. There's, you know, and just like Charla cranking out 3 books here in a short amount of time, it's really smart not to try to put all of your eggs in one basket. You don't want to launch 10 ideas, 10 concepts in one book. You want to spread it out. And speaking of doing great things, there's Vita. She's a wellness coach. She's a health coach, and she's a
Hi.
relationship doctor. Vita Newton from Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. How you doing, Vita?
I'm doing great. How are y'all doing? Hi, guys.
Well, I know you've been training people at the gym. It's what you do. I think today was your yoga class, right?
Yes, you're right. Yes.
Well, tell us, we're glad you're joining us here. I want to introduce you. Of course, you know Charlie. You're great friends with her. And that's the other thing about writing a book. Not only does writing a book good therapy for people, right? It's good therapy for you to write a book. I mean, you can spend money at the therapist or you can write a book. Not saying you should publish all the stuff you process during that time.
Right.
How, your book, you told me, was therapeutic for you, but also personal development, personal growth. But you've met a lot of great friends. I mean, you've met Charla, who you wouldn't have known otherwise. So what has this book done for you, cracking the love code?
Cracking the love code I typically just did it for my own personal use, but I thought there's a lot of people that can use this. They've been through heartbreak, pain, loss. We've all been through that. So one of the things I kind of did with my book was intertwine my exercise, because you have to have hobbies, exercise. It kind of all is intertwined in your value for your relationships. So you can value yourself more and attract better relationships.
Well, I've seen your journey evolve. I'm trying to remember, what month did you hear about us and engage us? Because you reached out about publishing the book. I think it was back in the summertime, right?
It was like May, something like that, April or May.
Yeah. You've been a part of our author masterminds and
billionaire business. Yeah, billionaire business. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, branding. Yeah. So you've got your website you're launching soon. And what day are we actually going to release this book? Are we going to release this book on Black Friday?
If I can get all my edits done, I'm working on that. So if I can get that done, then I don't know how much more time we need, but I don't know. Well, whatever you think.
Well, the beautiful thing is we can actually pre-sell it and go #1 on Black Friday and then release it at a future date. But a lot of beautiful possibilities. Okay. Hardcover, paperback, ebook, audiobook. Same with Charla. I'm all about making your content accessible to the reader. But, we've talked about this too, and Charla's done a really good job with this and modeled this for you, and you're doing it, is building a coaching program around your book. Now we've been talking with Stephen today, and Thursday talking to he and his business partner, Sean, about adapting your book to a movie. Have you thought about adapting your book to a movie? Because some of the stories you told me are stranger than fiction. I think it could be.
Yes, they are.
That chapter on getting catfished and things like that. Stephen, I don't know how familiar you are with online dating. I've been single longer than I've been married, and pre-internet and post-internet. And there's some crazy apps out there where you think you're chatting with somebody and you go meet them for coffee or dinner, and you want to call the FBI. It's really a crazy world. So I think her book to movie could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a good story, because I found you only because I was catfished. The guy I was talking to, he used someone else's picture, but that guy in the picture was an author and a speaker, and that's how I found his book.
That was connected to my world. So
yes.
It's funny because I know the author because we publish him. He's about my age, and he and I have this problem, Stephen, and you might be familiar with this too, Charla, is people from other countries will steal people's identities online, and about every week, my friends are like, hey, are you trying to sell me Bitcoin on Instagram? And I'm like, no, I have more than 15 followers. I can assure you that's not me.
It's crazy. I
got
off all of that.
Your grandson. I'm like, yeah, that stuff's on the internet. It can be stolen. So I think it would be a lot of fun. I know you're driving to another appointment, but booktomovie.org, Vita, you and Charla and everybody watching today. We got Dr. Julie's watching, and David are watching from California. We got McGenna watching from New York, saying, hey, good morning, everybody. So jump on that really quickly jump on that booktowebinar.org. One of the big
I'll do that.
takeaways, and I know, Stephen, you're working on a new one here. Can you tell us anything about the new one? Are you under contract where you can't talk about it yet?
No, we're very excited about the fact that this is actually the 4th adaptation that I've taken on. We've been working with the writer now for a good long time. We have a first draft that we're in the process of revising. It's a very unique script. It's too early to talk about it. We only have a tentative title, and it has a very specific audience in mind. But I'm very excited about it. I think they're going to have a lot of success with it. Also adapted from a book that was 324 pages long.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
To say that we needed to bring the size down is an understatement.
Yeah,
but I'm very excited with what we did, and it was a lot of fun working with the writer, and hopefully this will make it 4 out of 4.
4 out of 4. And then I think after our webinar, it's going to be 7 out of 7 or 10 out of 10, because we've got some amazing things here. Charlie, every time you tell me that, Step Toward the Gun story, I get chills because, we see what's happened in Israel. We see what's happening in some of our major cities' streets and college campuses. Being fearless, I think, is something we all need to revisit, and something that I memorized as a kid with the help of my parents was Psalms 91. There it is. There it is. We've got to realize. And of course, we were also grew up on the farm and learned how to shoot guns at a very early age. So I think it's being wise and being smart at the same time. And then also having those powerful transformative words dialed into your memory, your heart, and your psyche so much that anytime you're in a situation like that, you're prepared, you're ready. It's automatic. Most of the choices and decisions we make are based on our subconscious. And I think, when it comes to creating the best movies out there, I always say that the book is better than the movie. The book is always better than the movie because the reader has used their imagination to frame the scenery. And Stephen, that's what I think is so powerful about what you and Sean teach on Book to Webinar this coming Thursday, is you help eliminate the fluff, and you've got a system on actually writing the screenplay and shortening it for what the streaming services need. What does it look like to work with you guys without giving away too much? Because there's a lot of great information we're going to be sharing Thursday. They need to be on the webinar. It's about a 60 to 75 minute webinar on Thursday. RSVP. I'm going to put the link up again. I got so many links here. I got to be sure I got the right one because my producer's out today. But you said this. I think you said Netflix spends $6 or $7 billion a year just on content. They're looking for content. So RSVP at booktomovie.org. We're going to be streaming right here on this exact platform. We'll have a lot more people watching and learning. So what you're saying is, you're not saying they're looking for bad content. They've just got so much airtime to fill because they're all 24/7 streaming. And it's just like they're looking for content to crank through their pipeline. Is that right?
And they're, in a way, they're cannibalizing themselves now. Because, there was this big thing of, you don't need cable. You can just get all these things individually. Well, if you get all these things individually, you wind up spending more money than you were spending on cable. The idea of them looking for material and being able to adapt material from books, this is a great, great, great time to do that because of all of the availabilities. To answer your question about what we do, we'll have a conversation, maybe a couple of conversations with you to discuss whatever it is that you want to do, discuss your book if it's that or an idea. Then we'll kind of lay out for the client exactly how we go about doing this to see if the client wants to do it. What we do then, once we start working with somebody, is that we will have a Zoom call once a week for 2 hours, up to 2 hours, with our client to go over each step that they're doing, from the outline to the screenplay, etc. We also, as you're writing, we will be reading it and giving you ideas as you go along. Because the worst thing that can happen to a screenplay is that you get to the very end and then you think, I should have done that in the first act. Oh my goodness, I have to go back. That is why these outlines are so incredibly important for people. And then we will take you all the way through the first act of the movie, and then the second act and the third act. For people who are wondering what that is, first act is the setup, second act is the complication, third act is the resolution.
So you have a real system worked out here, and this has worked well for you. On a famous movie Tom Cruise was a part of, All the Right Moves. You adapted that from a magazine article. Robin Williams, who's famous, Cuba Gooding Jr., A-lister as well, What Dreams May Come. And that was adapted from a book. And Somewhere in Time, Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour. And now you're batting 1,000 and you're working on your fourth. So what gives you the most joy, Stephen, about seeing these books and literary pieces that you've adapted for the big screen? You go with your wife to the movie theater and you watch this. That's got to be surreal, right?
Well, I'll tell you, seeing a movie that you've worked on, because usually a producer is the first person. I'm not producing anymore, but is usually the first person on the project and the last person when it's in the theaters, and you supervise the 6th week of marketing and stuff like that. So it's at least a 2 to 3 to 4 year commitment in your life. And a lot of things don't get made. Most things don't get made. You know how many thousands and thousands and thousands of scripts get developed every year? It is a challenge. So when you I will never forget seeing the first public preview. It was in Minneapolis in 1980 of Somewhere in Time. And I stood in the back of the theater on the side so that I could see a lot of faces being lit up by the screen, and seeing people wiping at tears, laughing and smiling and thinking, it took me a long time to get that movie made. It took me 3 years. It took me 20 years to get What Dreams May Come made. That was an incredibly satisfying moment when you actually see it and an audience is getting it. As far as working with writers now to adapt books into screenplays, for me, and we've just had this happen, and it was something that was really wonderful for both Sean and myself. But the very beginning, the author said to us, I just want to make sure that I'm happy with this at the end of I know we're going to change a lot. I just want to make sure I'm happy with it. And when we finished the first draft, she said to both of us, guys, you fulfilled your promise. I couldn't be happier and more proud with this. That is a great, great thing for us, because as it goes forward, there's a lot of things that happen, and we'll talk more about that when we get into it if you're a client.
Yeah. It's great stuff, Stephen. One of our authors from Chattanooga, Tennessee, author Debbie Adams, she's written a couple of faith books, and I know that's something you're really passionate about, is your faith, and it comes through in your movies. She says, how do you make a faith book into a movie? Is that possible?
Of course it's possible. Look, the faith-based movies now have really come into their own as a genre.
Yeah.
Affirm and PureFlix, both of whom are owned by Sony, that's what they do. And Angel Studios, which has gotten a lot of ink recently because they released Sound of Freedom. They have a book out there now called After Death.
I was just with the producer, the executive producer of Sound of Freedom, Paul Hutchinson, who funded that movie. I was with him this weekend in Dallas. You're exactly right. The demand, audiences are selling out. They're standing in line.
People, and they know how to make these movies. And what's fascinating is that I've had a talk with a couple of the executives, including the executive that says yes or no at Affirm. That's the person that finally has the say. And one of the first things he told me is that, Stephen, this is not the way it used to be with faith-based films. We really want faith-based films to appeal to a larger audience as well, which is an interesting path to walk, because it needs to be faith-based, yes, but it also needs to be accessible to an audience that may have a different faith than the person who wrote the script. And that's what we just did with the adaptation we just finished. I think that's going to be one of the fascinating things going forward, is to see these movies begin to broaden their appeal to a wider audience. And boy, do we need it now, because faith is so under attack in this country. If you believe in God, whatever your faith might be, whatever it might be. If it's
So
a
we just
spirit,
have a couple minutes. What you're saying is you need the movie made, the content produced properly, but then you need distribution. So quick question, Charla, and then we're going to close it out with a word from 1040 Impact. What's your question, Charla? Well, you're muted, sweetie. Let's unmute you. You're watching the Michael D Show. We still can't hear you. Let me see if I can unmute you from my end. Oh, there you go.
I touched a key.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't know what happened. I don't watch much TV and haven't on my whole life. I gave it up in 7th grade or movies. And the things that I'm seeing on when my grandkids and people are here, it's horrible. It's really bad. How does that really, really bad stuff get through this incredibly tedious process?
well, you know what? There's no accounting for taste, number one. Number two, there has been a long process in the film industry of thinking that people are looking for edgy material, which may have been true for a long time, but is no longer true. That's a big problem with it. And as a very famous comedian said a couple of years ago, he looked directly into the camera and he said, Hollywood, I have a question for you. You think maybe every once in a while you might make a movie that doesn't make me want to take a bath with a toaster?
That's good.
When movies are being put out for Academy Award nomination, they're usually serious movies that only 73 people ever see. And, that's a lot of what happens because of what the world has been through and because of what the world is going through. We think this is going to be a time in which it's a return to wanting to go to the movies and feel better about being human when you walk out than when you walked in. Forrest Gump is a great example of that kind of film. You feel better about being a person when you walk out of that movie. And that is one of the things that we want to make sure that all of our projects do.
You've been watching the Michael D Show. I'm your host, Michael D. Butler from Dallas, Texas. We're all about faith, family, culture, and business. This has been an exciting time. Go ahead and RSVP for Thursday's webinar, booktomovie.org. If you've written a book or been remotely interested in learning more about how you could get your idea adapted, your screenplay adapted, creating a screenplay, creating a film that can be streaming. Thank you for being with us, Stephen Simon, Sean Kuhn, Charla Anderson, Vita Nelson. It was an epic day, and it's all possible because of you at 1040 Impact and what you're doing to change kids' lives from around the world. Oh, this is my shot of Israel. Well, let's say we stand with Israel today. There's 100,000, 100,000 pro-Israeli Christians and Americans and people from around the globe standing with Israel in our nation's capital today. So we support Israel. We stand with Israel. We pray for our hostages to be released, all 240 of them.
Here in the holy city of Old Jerusalem, I'm in the Jewish quarter. Quite frankly, I'm not good at reading maps, so I don't know exactly where I am, but everywhere you look, there's just a labyrinth of passageways, of tunnels, of old historic streets in the oldest city in the world here. It's beautiful. So let's go check it out. I think there's some great rooftop views as well. La Ciudad Viejo, the old city, headed to the Western Wall. It's been an epic day so far. People here from all over the world. Just came from the empty tomb. There was nobody there. Except tourists. He's got books over there, guys. Love it. It's beautiful. We're going to turn the corner to the Western Wall. Ata Adonai Elohim. Somebody's honking at me. Changing lives in New York and NASDAQ and beyond. Michael D. Butler, global book publisher. We're ending human trafficking at 1040impact.org.
I don't celebrate birthdays. I just don't celebrate birthdays. There's two things you need to do to reverse the curse of bitterness and create blessing in your family and to bring it back. And you need to forgive yourself and you need to celebrate. Well, I was good at forgiving myself because I had screwed up a lot and I forgave a lot. And she said, celebrate yourself, come on. And that was my theme song. And I sat there in jail and said, I'm going to run a marathon this year. And Michael, Matthew, Joshua, and Jeremiah, my four sons, they stepped out of the participant or the spectator in the last 3 miles. They ran with me in 2008 and crossed that finish line with me. And as I told my sons, I said, sons, I am celebrating your birthday, but guess what? Next year, I'm celebrating my birthday on May the 10th, and all of you are invited. Celebrate with me.
Well, there you go. So I got to say, Stephen's word on that vulnerability used to be very difficult for me, but this year has been a year of being transparent, being authentic. And if you've been struggling to write your book, we're going to do a special webinar on Black Friday at 12 noon Central. Write your book in 1 hour. This Black Friday, I've been teaching people for years based on the concept of my second book I published, Book Idea to Bestseller in 30 days. I help you in 1 hour write your book. So the Thanksgiving turkey's done. That Friday, Black Friday, you're up at 4 a.m. shopping at 12 noon. Grab a coffee. Join me for Book Idea to Bestseller at Beyond Webinar. We teach how to write your book in 1 hour. Thanks for joining us today. Charlie, we appreciate you. Thanks for watching from around the world. This is all possible because of 1040 Impact, and Beyond Publishing is donating 30% of our net proceeds to 1040impact.org, where we rescue girls. We have 394 girls and 25 staff, which is total 415 girls and staff we care for on a daily basis. They've been rescued from human trafficking. We're educate them. We're preparing them. We do professional training. They're learning fashion skills. They're learning cosmetology skills. They're learning coding to prepare them for life. They're ages 6 to 17, and they'll never have to go back in trafficking again. And some amazing stories coming out of Pakistan and out of Oklahoma, where we have 4 safe houses where we care for these girls. We have Giving Tuesday coming up 2 weeks from now, and you can actually go to mygivingtuesday.org to be a part of that great day. 2 weeks from now, we're going to be doing giveaways. We're going to be streaming for a couple hours and having lots of great guests lined up. So your story matters. You can make a difference. I believe in you, and I believe the world's waiting to hear your story. And heck, maybe it's time for your book to be optioned for a movie. Thanks for joining us on the Michael D Show. Have a great day, and God bless you all from around the world. Don't miss next week. I believe in you, and go make it happen. And tag me when you go live.